to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. I looked over Jordan, and what did I see? Coming for to carry him home. A band of angels coming for me, coming for to carry on. Dear Mama, you raised me as a Christian girl, and then later I became a Christian woman. But you yourself were a Muslim woman, a strong one at that. You taught me all that there is that I need to know. You taught me to be proud of who I am. But you also taught me the prejudice that comes with being a Muslim woman. You taught me that you did not want me to experience that kind of prejudice, the kind of torture, the kind of discrimination, the kind of unhappiness that comes with being a Muslim woman, and that you yourself had experienced as a Muslim woman. But I never felt that you were any less than the mothers of the girls who I went to school with, than the mothers of the girls of the women whom I know and love. Be them Christian, Hindu, traditionalists, or representatives of any other religion, known or unknown, named or unnamed, and regardless of whether they were birthed and bred by any other culture. You taught me that your experiences were so harrowing that I should never ever forget that before I judge a Muslim woman or a Muslim man, my mother herself is a Muslim woman. The womb that I came from is that of a Muslim woman. And now 1 week in 1 week, COVID took you away from me. And I'm left here with a practice, a sacred practice of your religion. I must bury you tomorrow. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry you home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry you home. I looked over Jordan, and what do I see? They're coming forth to carry you home. A band of angels, they're coming for you, coming forth to carry you home. I have no space to mourn you. Come and listen to the family members saying that you have tuba, you have converted, and now we cannot take our time to plan your funeral. In Ghana, who buries their dead in 1 week, let alone in 1 day? Come and listen to them. These are people who sat at your feet, ate your food, came to you when they were in trouble, and you took care of them, paid their school fees, fed their children and their children's children. And dear Mama, now you're gone. I need you to remember that the woman that I knew in the hijab and the mask is the woman who raised me well, is a woman whom I respect, and I will always tell the stories of the strong woman that you were, of the strong Muslim woman that you were, regardless of the fact that I'm a Christian woman myself. The band of angels, they're coming for you, coming forth to carry you home. Swing low, sweet chariot, morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Apiorkor, and I'm here with the musical Lunatics. The piece you just heard, that was Dear Mama. There's a lot of conversation in Ghana these days, a lot of conversation around the world about what religion is doing, the divisions that exist because of what we believe in, the faiths that we owe allegiance to. But we're more than that. We're human beings. We're people. We share a common humanity. And I want us to remember that in every situation that we find ourselves. The next one is a tribute to the Black Star. There's a lot going on in Ghana at the moment of economic turmoil. We're still dealing with the aftermath of the spillage of the Akosombo Dam. Citi FM, Citi TV, we've been at it talking about it. But there's hope for Ghana because the Black Star never dies. God bless our homeland, Ghana, and make our nation great and strong, bold to defend forever the cause of freedom and of right. Fill our hearts with true humility. Make us cherish fearless honesty and help us to resist oppressors' rule with all our will and our might forevermore. How do we typically respond to the sound of the Ghana national anthem? Ghana's national anthem, our national anthem. And how do we typically respond to the sound of our national anthem when no one is watching? Out of the shadows of darkness, we scream. Our voices are tinged with blood that drips onto the roots of plantain, yam, kontomire, the cocoa. Our blood nourishes them. And when we open our mouths, our bloody voices spit onto gold and make it an ugly, revolting thing. And we lay dismembered in stripes, strips of red, gold, and green, while the ink of a potent black star spills across us, then bathes us until we are simply forgotten shadows trapped in trapped rays of darkness. But out of the shadows of the darkness we scream, because we are many black stars which culminate into one enormous black star. And our black star's 5 points are daggers that know how to fight overpowering shadows and to pierce through suffocating darkness. How do we typically respond to the sound of the national anthem of Ghana? Ghana's national anthem, our national anthem. And how do we typically respond to the sound of our national anthem when no one is watching? And help us to resist oppressors' rule with all our will and might forevermore. And help us to resist oppressors' rule with all our will and might forevermore. Oppressors' rule with all our will and might forever. The black star never dies. The next song we'll do is Educated Dreams. It's one of my personal favorites. I mean, it's not every day you hear an artist talk about what their favorite piece of art is, but it's one of my favorites because it's not long, it's simple, but it talks about many of the things I'm passionate about in one piece. Educated Dreams. All for my dreams, all for my dreams. What I'm going through, what I'm going through, it's all for my dreams, all for my dreams, all for my dreams. What I'm going through, what I'm going through, it's all for my dreams. I deserve to be a self-sufficient, educated woman, she would say. She knew where she'd come from. Her family had made many sacrifices for her to get an education. Her siblings stayed at home because her parents could only pay school fees for one child at a time, a dire situation. And she could not prove her uncles and aunties right. Sending a girl child to school is not a waste of meager family resources for a fruitless effort towards economic liberation. And then, free SHS came. They all went to school, but they still had to buy school uniforms, provisions, sanitary pads, things which were still a difficult novelty for their parents to afford in their state of desolation. And yet, I deserve to be a self-sufficient, educated woman, she would say. All for my dreams, all for my dreams. What I'm going through, what I'm going through, it's all for my dreams, all for my dreams, all for my dreams. What I'm going through, what I'm going through, it's all for my dreams. She worked hard when she was in high school. She earned 7 A's and 1 B and was certain that she would be able to become the first person in her family to obtain a university degree. But there is no money. And so what would it take to become a self-sufficient, educated woman? Hawking on the streets of Accra, working as a kayayo with the possibility of being cheated by selfish customers by day or raped by ruthless predators at night, or having to depend on the benevolence of a rich man in return for the currency of her lady parts. I deserve to be a self-sufficient, educated woman, she would say. It's all for my dreams, what I'm going through, what I'm going through, it's all for my dreams, all for my dreams, all for my dreams. What I'm going through, what I'm going through, it's all for my dreams. But self-dignity, self-confidence, and self-sufficiency. They cannot come from a mere dream of having big, expensive certificates of education. Now, not be certificates we go chop. Educated dreams. It's educated dreams. I don't know. Do we have time for one more before we go into conversation? Okay. So let me just hang on. Give me something. Give me something. So let's do 90 minutes. 90 minutes, also in my collection, when the person who's called COVID came. We've been talking a lot about mental health on the show this morning, so let's do something that speaks to that. He did everything right. As a young boy, he was obedient. He ate all his food. He had always wished to play football with the big boys. Especially. But he was too small, his mother said. So instead, he always packed his toys in his toy chest. And when he had finished his playtime of 90 minutes, and when he was older, unlike other adolescent boys, he didn't run away from the sandy, stony pitch to secretly go and chat with the area girls, with lines and lines of empty lies about how many lele his father owned, or how many akpeteshi bottles his father could drink before he got drunk, and how his father would make sure that even if his son got a girl pregnant, he would make sure that the girl and her family were spoiled with the best fish of Ghana's Ga Coast. After 90 minutes, he would hurry home with the evening sea breeze to help his mother carry the day's kenkey to the Accra roadside. As a young man, he went to church, and he sat through each service for 90 minutes. Each morning, he fed his soul by praying, reading his Bible, and meditating for 90 minutes. He went to school and studied each evening for at least 90 minutes. And when he gained admission into the university, he never missed a lecture. He sat through each one for 90 minutes. Then he graduated with honors. He was fresh out of school, and he had jobs lined up for him, not the kind of decision that he could make in 90 minutes. And when he finally started working, he pushed himself and pulled himself and catapulted himself right to the top of the mountain of his career. He never sped or cut deals with driving illegalities. He would sit in Accra in the traffic for 90 minutes. Then he found a peaceful, beautiful, rare kind of love with a woman who herself was love. Their 21st century Accra wedding ceremony was elegant and serene and lasted for just 90 minutes. And then he and his lovely wife, who was herself love, they made love and birthed a love child after a tsunami of labor of 90 minutes. His mother looked at him with joy one evening. Then she prayed to God, thanking him for the favor that he had rained upon her beloved son. In prayer, she pumped her heart dry and exhaled her lungs flat for 90 minutes. And then the person who's called COVID came. One morning, he lost his mountain peak of a job in 90 minutes. His lovely wife, who herself was love, laid in a COVID-induced coma for 90 minutes. His beloved mother, who could still breathe after lungs collapsed after 90 minutes of prayer, she gasped for air to breathe her last breath in COVID stupor that claimed her life in 90 minutes. He lost his will to pray, to read his Bible, to meditate for 90 minutes. He couldn't worship on Zoom and YouTube for 90 minutes. He didn't even have the the space to breathe for 90 minutes. And when he did manage to whistle a breath or two, his breath had no music and no goal-scoring finesse, because the breeze reeked of crowned poison and royal disease. Like invisible daggers in the sky, the jewels of the crown poison shred and diminished, flying time into fragments of an era. And then he could no longer measure 90 minutes. His brain crumbled and pumped his heart dry and exhaled his lungs flat. But he didn't know if that took only 90 minutes. He decided to die so that he could live. He concocted a regal poison of his own, one that he could actually see, feel, and touch. He shoved it down his throat. He was living a life of death in 90 minutes. Suicide is a Ghanaian crime. And so on the day of his physical departure from this sick world, he was buried in 90 minutes. No room to grieve him, even for 90 minutes. He did everything right. But neighbors, family members, church members, and Ghanaian gossips, they must not be allowed to whisper about his 90-minute affair with a poison that wasn't a poison of royalty. They all forgot that he did everything right. They all forgot that the crown poison took his mind, his spirit, and his soul long before he died in 90 minutes. Because he just wanted to live again. And a suicide of 90 minutes seemed like the way to do it. So that was 90 minutes. That was 90 minutes. We'll do one last one, the redemption of African unity. So there have been a lot of conversations in the last few months. Borders are opening up across the African continent. What we've been talking about is what we've been praying for, what we've been asking for, that we should be able to move between our countries as one nation, the way Nkrumah, Mandela, all of these, freedom fighters for the post-colonial Africa that we enjoy, what they wanted. But there's still so much more to do. Ago. I'm the royal town crier. I'm the queen of my poetic woman queendom. I'm the goddess of poetic African savannas, jungles, rivers, and oceans. I am the lioness. I am the tigress. I am the Ghanaian mermaid. I'm the matriarch of modern poetic nations, and my poetry incarnate as I am. My pen fears no sword, no woman, no man, no child, no beast, no plague. Forget the muse, for I am the muse. Let us speak of an African unity. Let us think about the founding fathers and the founding mothers of the Africa that we live in and benefit from today. The Africa whose name brings us a heritage of glory and global repute. If those founding mothers and founding fathers had not shared one heart, one mind, one voice, and one desired destiny, over 60 years ago, the manifestation of African unity would not have been born. Ago. We speak of Africa and of Africa unity. But are we not embarrassed that even though the glistening diamond jubilee, 60 powerful years of the anniversary of the formation of the Organization of African Unity came upon us, it stared us in the face, and yet at that point, African unity needed redemption and redemption songs, and still does. We speak of an African unity, but how do we explain to the world that there are no direct flights from many African countries to many other African countries? How can we defend the tedious visa applications that we must endure just to be able to taste the differences in the preparation of our gari, our plantain, our yam, our chicken, our beef, and the almighty jollof that both unites and divides us? The tedious theses and tall tales that we must tell and write just to be able to smell the air of the lands of Nigeria, Liberia, and Sierra Leone, or to feel the raindrops of La Côte d'Ivoire and the sun rays of Ghana on our skin, or to hear the high life, the Afro beats, the chimurenga, and the Fuji music in their homes and to drink from their source, or to see the kente da shoke while they are being woven and spun by the hands and the rhythmic feet of our people. How do we explain to our children that the European Union buys items from and sells products to individual African countries, but individual African countries buy items from and sell products to the European Union? Ago. We know that African unity needs redemption. We know what we must do. Africa is the custodian of her own destiny. We must learn from each other. It no longer matters who gained independence first, who built what's first, or who produced what's first. We must not dwell on past glory, but on the heritage of our unity. In Africa, we revere our mothers and our fathers and the elderly. We respect our big sisters and brothers who opened up the blessed our mothers' wombs with their birth canals. And yet, we value the voices of our children because we know that age comes with experience and existence comes with the power of intelligence. Ago. Today I sound the clarion call at the command of our ancestors. I invoke the spirit of unity, the African strength of the past that we may experience in the present. Ago. African Union Day, the 25th of May. If ever there were a hope in the presence of our ancestors that burned ablaze within an infinite inferno of wealth, love, prosperity, joy, solitude, and a crystal clear guiding light, then that hope must be in itself the healing salve, the source of the redemption that we do and so desperately need now. For our future depends on our toil, our sweat, and our untainted African unity. Won't you help me sing these songs of freedom? 'Cause all I ever had, redemption songs, redemption songs, these songs of freedom, redemption songs, redemption songs.
So that was a lot of music and performance and poetry from Apiorkor. Of course, you know it's all about the Matrix verse. Take a look at this snippet from the Matrix verse last year.
Our ailments and our afflictions. 4 times her womb has tortured with living beauty, and she's pushed forth humanity into this world. She's a nurturer, a caregiver, a lover, and a friend. But she can no longer hold her baby to her breast, nor watch her husband rest peacefully upon her chest. For her entire body has lost its nurturing sustenance and has transformed into a battlefield itself, a possible threat to the very lives that her womanhood has birthed and the masculine body that completes her has become. So this heroine hides behind her goggles, her face shield, her scrubs, her protective suit, and her mask, her last threads of honor, praying every second that a ceasefire will be called and that she can feel human again. His love for life is unparalleled. He is himself the lifeline for his comrades and the light for his foes. And yet, this social being must remain socially distant, because even if he had the chance to escape from the front line of testing, positive cases, negative cases, isolation centers, intensive care units, strange trial and error treatment plans, and the stench of death, even if he could run away from all that he could do would be to make a couple of video calls, replay a few WhatsApp messages, and then retreat from the battlefront.
Okay, so that's a little bit from what happened last year at the Matrix Verse. And of course, Apiorkor is on set with us this morning. We're going to be talking about this year's Matrix Verse. You don't want to miss out on that.
Hello.
Apiorkor.
Hi. Hello.
Yeah, that was quite a performance there. Yeah.
Thank you.
I love it. No, I love it.
Thank
The
you.
energy, the thought that goes into it, the performance of it, you know, and you have a way of just bringing it to life.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, that's why it's called performance poetry, right? That's why it's called performance poetry.
So this year, the Matrix verse, what are we looking at this year? Because last year was big. Yeah.
I mean, even what you just saw, that was actually from 2021.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
So
So
this
this
is
is not
the-
a snippet of what we're going to see.
Right. So this is the 5th year.
Okay.
Okay, this is the 5th year of the Matrix verse. We started in 2018. It really started out together with the co-producer of the Matrix verse, Firma Adunyami. A lot of people don't realize that Firma. I mean, we sat down. She says, "Look, you need to start performing your poetry. Let's do a big show." And I said, "Well, will people watch? It's poetry." She said, "You have no idea. Let's try. We won't know until we try."
Yeah.
So we've grown from sending out invitations, special invitations, to people buying tickets. That's how far we've come, and it's poetry.
Yeah.
Now this year, it's more than me now. I mean, we've done so much in this space. I can't be rolling on stages and performing
Yeah,
forever.
I know.
So we need to groom the next generation of writers and also build capacity of those who have the talent. So this year, it's a whole festival, basically, the Matrix Verse Experience. We start on the 28th of November at the National Theatre.
Okay.
That day is for students.
Okay.
So JHS, SHS, tertiary. Students who are very brilliant, very talented in writing, especially poetry, but writing in general.
Yeah.
But don't see a career path because we've been telling them that there's nothing they can
There's
do
no
with
way.
writing.
Yeah, exactly.
We want to show them that it's possible so that they don't kill their dream. And you don't have someone in their 50s saying, "Oh, when I was young, I used to write." We're tired of hearing that. So it's a lot of capacity
We all used to write.
building. We all used to write. So it's capacity building
Yeah.
for them, letting them see the future that they can
that's
tap
day one.
into. That's day one. We've got so many facilitators coming through
Okay.
to do that. We're doing this with the Poetry Association of Ghana
Okay.
and many other entities. Day 2
Okay.
at the British Council. That's the 28th.
Okay.
Sorry, the 29th of November,
Okay.
Wednesday.
Okay.
Wednesday the 29th. That's for industry. So people who are already writing. We've been talking a lot. We are tired of the struggling artist narrative, And poetry, writing, it's a very interesting craft, but it's not the same as music or theater or film, where the investment opportunities are so clear, but they are there.
Yeah.
And so together with the GIPC, UNESCO as well, of course, we're also doing this. We're in the year of the Accra World Book Capital,
yes.
UNESCO
Yeah.
World Book
Yes.
Capital. We're doing this with the Secretariat as well. The GIPC is very important because now we are talking about looking at writing poetry as an investment opportunity for
Okay.
Ghana.
Okay.
So the Ghana Investment Promotion Center is on board. We're doing capacity building. How can you position yourself as a poet, as a writer,
Okay.
to do the business of writing and
writing,
poetry?
yeah.
How can you diversify to make sure that, yes, you're doing what the art wants you to do, you're passionate about it, but you can also eat off of it. So several workshops from
like
living and eating your art to the economy of the literary arts to mental health, again,
Okay.
for writers. There's that. So many of them. We also have a panel discussion that we'll be doing on the diaspora. So
Okay.
diasporans who have come to Ghana to come and thrive in creativity.
Okay.
How are they learning? How can we tap into their experiences?
Yeah.
How
And
can
how
they
can they
learn
tap
from
into
us?
it? Yeah.
And how can we grow together? That's also important.
Wow.
And then the 3 days of the Matrix Verse Experience fall smack in the middle of what we call the 16 days of activism
Yes,
against sexual and
exactly.
gender-based
Yeah.
violence. So we'll also be talking about that. How can you use your arts? Because it's such a problem in our country.
Yes.
Young children are raped. It ends up in a family living room
Yeah.
or in the courtyard of a compound house.
Yeah.
Yenchasu,
Yeah.
and now you have women who are grown and they are now telling you that they were raped and abused 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And then people are doubting their
The
credibility,
veracity of the
all that.
stories, yeah.
So let's talk about how as artists, as writers, we can use our craft to amplify, to give voice to the voiceless, to give courage to those who are
Yeah.
living in fear.
Yeah.
So we're doing all that. And then on day 3, the Matrix Verse concert, the poetry concert. So I'll be in concert. I'll be supported by a number of creators. We have Stone. Stone is coming from Cameroon.
Okay.
He lives in Germany, but he's Cameroonian.
Okay.
He's a poetographer.
Hey.
So we're doing a very
Hey.
interesting performance with poetry and photography. We have Camido.
Okay.
Yes, Camido will be on
Okay.
stage. Don't forget that lyrics
Yeah.
are actually poems.
Yes, the
Yeah.
poems,
So music is a big part of this. Abiana, Susan August
Oh, nice.
will also be on stage.
Wow.
We have Sabuki,
Okay.
Emma Ofusua, the freestyle poet,
Yeah.
will be doing some very interesting things. Dede Paddy, who will be joining me on stage, and for a couple of the performances, should be helping volunteers from the audience to translate their emotions that they're experiencing through the poetry into a big painting.
Oh, wow.
And we want to auction that
nice.
and give the money to the relief efforts that Citi FM and Citi TV are doing
that's
for
nice.
the victims of the spillage of the dam.
Yes,
so a lot happening on the night, and of course it's culinary art. You know what you're eating. You get a nice experience and all that.
How do people get tickets?
Okay, so it's very simple. We're keeping it digital. So there's a short code you can dial. I believe we have it. We can put it up so when I'm saying it, people can follow us. But I mean, very simple. You dial this short code, you go there. There are 3 categories of tickets. Okay, so there we have it. 3 categories of tickets. We have the VIP ticket going for 300 Ghana cedis. If you want to buy 2 at once, a double, then instead of paying 600, you pay 550, 50 cedis off. Standard ticket, 200 cedis for one. The double is 350 instead of 400.
Okay.
And then student tickets for 50 cedis. Last year we did 100 for student, but we've dropped it so that at least more students can take part.
Love it, love it, love it. Wonderful. We're looking forward to it. So it's the dates again?
So 28th, 27th. So 28th, 29th, 30th. So 28th Tuesday, 29th Wednesday, and then the concert is the 30th.
Fantastic.
However, on Monday, I'll be doing a walk of poetivism.
Okay.
So I'll be
poetic activism.
Exactly, poetic activism. So I'll be doing a 1 mile walk, performance walk from the 37 area to what we're calling the verse center. So you know the National Theatre is one of our venues, the British Council. Mervyn Pick Ambassador Hotel forms.
So you're going to walk
exactly
through the V.
And then I will do a performance when I'm done with the walk. And that's, you know, in support and raising awareness about many of the things that we've spoken about.
Is it open to everybody?
It is open to the public. But we'll, of course, want to limit the numbers because we haven't told the police that we're bringing a crowd out. But I mean, look out for me in traffic. You see what's happening.
I love it. Thank you.
I think that's
fantastic.